they just like, and then you move and then something happens. You don't feel that power wave or anything, which perplexed me.
Mike, do you have any other comments you'd like to add?
I mean, we're talking about two different kind of models of going about it, and there's a post recently, and it's like, and the way, maybe if you examine it from that standpoint, you have to do it this way. Maybe that's the only answer that's available, actually. But for ARC, it's always about reduce the pressure, erase the force. Don't give other person information. That, I don't know, it's very typical of like Japanese martial arts, and Kuroda talks about this kind of stuff. Like if you see the YouTube videos recently, and I don't know, if you go from that standpoint, then you have to kind of approach it from this kind of a model where you would just allow it go down the front, so that, I don't know, you'll if you do it and the person grabs you, you'll kind of know if it's going to work or not, because, oh, I don't feel anything. Okay, of course I can go up then. Instead of I don't know, you generate power in order to raise someone or fling someone. I think it's completely different. So.
No, well, and I don't want to say in their defense, but their I guess their focus is on building what they perceive to be like a strength component, the chi component.
Yeah.
Which is, I mean, it's in there with Akazawa Sensei's, but it's not his main focus at all. In fact, he's even said if you build up the strength component too much, it blocks maybe what they would consider to be the Jin component. And I think like there's this assumption that all the Jin is the same, but I've had talks with people in the forum who are actually like very old hands, and they're like, yeah, it's actually not, but we don't really want to bring it up because it's going to cause waves. So there's using the ground, like even in our case, we're using the ground. Technically, it's just the proprioceptive feel is different. Like somebody that when I worked with, say, like Sam Chin, and Sam Chin, wonderful guy, by the way, big-hearted, super open, never hit anything. When he talked about using the body, he was always talking this, the awesome Malaysian accent, and he's like, when you push me, when you are pushing the floor, you cannot push the floor, right? If you push into the floor, it will push you back. Right. So it's like, oh, okay. And that was like great, because I was like, oh, so you use the floor. That's so cool. But so Sam had this notion of using the floor. But when I felt Sam, it felt like a wave or pressure, right? That you couldn't stop. But the thing that perplexed me about Akazawa Sensei and caused me to think that he was actually lower level in a way, like much lower than Sam, was because I couldn't feel it. I didn't realize at the time, oh, you could actually access the ground in such a way that when somebody grabs you, you don't feel anything. Yeah, it's actually hit the floor, probably, or you're doing something with your body. I can't really speak to actually what's happening. I can only theorize, but proprioceptively, if somebody grabs you, you don't feel anything, they don't feel anything, and they just like, and then you move and then something happens. You don't feel that power wave or anything, which perplexed me a great deal.
Yeah, I think that came across in one of Sensei's videos recently too. I think someone was talking about like a brain hack.
Mm-hmm.
When you don't, it's not that you're trying to beat the person on speed or anything like that, and that they can't react. It's just that they don't have anything to base that judgment off of, and their body just simply can't react. And that's why you see the results that you see.
Which is where Mike was referring, you were referring to skip frames.
Yes. but I can't describe it any way better. It just
No, I think it's a great description.
And then I have you do it again, and the same thing happens again. Because I've had this is what was most profound. I've had an experience where I was doing some pad work with Ark, and then sometimes he likes to take a go at you in the middle of going when you're punching. He did it in such a way that I got hit, and then like 2 seconds after I got hit, I was like, "Oh, he just hit me." What? And so it's very much like those kind of like samurai cartoons where you cut the person's head off, they sheathe the sword, and then your head falls off. It just felt exactly like that. I was like, what just happened? How do you hit me? I didn't see anything. But it doesn't feel like, oh, you create this chain and then there's a really fast motion. You just don't, nothing happened. And then, oh.
Yeah, I mean, there was that Kuroda video that came out not long ago, and I think there was an exchange in there between Naka and Kuroda, and they essentially said the same exact thing. Is what you just said, Mike.
And I like what he talks about, or Naka-sensei talks about, where if you try to go that way, you realize all these points where you get in your own way. So the more you get, the more proficient you get at this, the more you start realizing, oh, I can't move this way, or else I'm actually jamming myself, right? And this is kind of how you self-correct. You don't really need a partner sometimes. It's nice, but you start moving, and then you're like, oh, this would never work on James because I'm already jamming myself, and then he would jam me even harder, right? And then so Naka-sensei was saying, oh, I started realizing I can't. It's hard to just like move or you just start the motion because I already realized, no, that's not going to work, or no, this is not going to work. So he's like, I can't move anymore. And then Kuro was very happy with that realization. He's like, yes, and this is like your first step into that world of what Kuro believes to be like the peak or the pinnacle, right? Naka-sensei is very, very skilled. So I don't want to take away anything from him, but maybe he was probably really blown away in that moment. He's like, oh my God, I'm doing everything wrong.
And for those of you who are watching who might not know who these people are, Naka-sensei has a channel called Kuro Obi World. I highly recommend watching that channel. There's a lot of interesting content in there. He has some great people on, does some great demos. And then Kuroda Sensei is, I didn't screw up the pronunciation for his first name, but is it Tetsuzan?
Tetsuzan.
Yeah. So he's excellent swordsman. I think the first time I ever saw him actually was on an old, very silly titled BBC special called Mind, Body, and Kick-Ass Moves.
Mm-hmm.
And if you haven't seen this segment, I think it's called like Death on a Beach or something. Watch that segment. I mean, as silly as that title is, watch that segment. There is some very impressive things that go on in that segment there. So
I was going to say, I was going to also mention that Naka-sensei was the star. He played the antagonist, the bad guy in Kurobi, the movie Kurobi. It was about,
really?
Yeah. Have you seen Kurobi?
Yeah. But not
yeah, he's the guy with the beard. He's the guy that goes running around killing people. Like,
okay,
and like the teacher is like, Naran. He's like, Naran, but sensei, Naran. Like, then he goes and like kills like one of the Japanese soldiers. Like, it's really well shot. It's a really cult film, but yeah.
All right. Well, I know what I'm gonna be doing after this. I guess it's because when you see his channel, he doesn't have a beard, so maybe that's why.
He's got that Oda Nobunaga style like lip beard going.
It was a cool movie.
It was. I was just like, why don't they make more movies? Like they struck a really cool balance. Yeah.